G'day and welcome to the GameDay Squad NRL Fantasy Show I'm Stu, that's Dyl, and we are the Fantasy Bros. Once again, partnered with GameDay Squad. This NRL's know to succeed in GDS Rugby League in season 2026. Well, everyone, the extended week 1 is now in the books, and we're back to that full 8-game slate, so it'll be action-packed across the next 4 days. But it's now Wednesday, and you know what that means. Team List Tuesday has dropped, and it's time to take a deep dive into all of the relevant GDS players that we'll be relying on to get us up those leaderboards. Dyl, welcome, mate. Not in the GDS studio today, I see. Before we get into those positional previews, how are your scores in round 1?
Yeah, g'day Stu, g'day viewers and listeners. Yeah, it seems like the background today, unfortunately, just didn't like me. So just got to have a plain wall just in my office. But no, what a round of footy we had. 2 golden point games in that round. If we go back and we include the Vegas game, obviously, in round 1, which I think is the first time it's ever happened, having 2 golden point games. As well as that, both of our teams got up as well. And they're pretty good wins too. I know the Warriors worked pretty hard over there at Mount Smart to get up against the Roosters. And then the Raiders, what a game that was against the Sea Eagles. Obviously, that golden point winner in the 81st minute. So I think Ethan Strange, also the youngest bloke to kick a field goal. It's something like that, or the least amount of games played in the NRL to kick a field goal. So it was pretty awesome to see that as well. As well as that, we obviously had the Stats Lab Primetime, the Under-24s and the FantasyBros Sunday Showdown competitions. They were a massive hit as well. Plenty of prizes being given out by the GameDay Squad boys. Look, in terms of my results, I finished 10th in Champion, which was my best finish for the week. I also had a 13th in Challenger, which is sort of where my pods end up as well. So I had a pretty decent pod size. Also got up and beat the coach, the NRL competition that Mel's Misfits is running as the community engagement officer. And I believe, look, I think I had a message from her that she wants us to refer to her as the CEO moving forward. So Mel's Misfits, I see you're in the chat. You are now the CEO of GameDay Squad. Stu, mate, how did you go? I know we had a bit of a joke about one of your teams on the Sunday Showdown where you made a bit of a boo-boo. But the rest of the comps, how did you go?
Yeah, big boo-boo indeed. I don't think I've ever made such a big boo-boo across not just GameDay Squad, but my 20-odd years of fantasy sports. I left a player in my starting lineup that wasn't even named in the round 1 teams, and a player that we spoke about, at length about his hammy injury and the impact it would have. Sunday morning, woke up and realised that Jaden Campbell was still in that team. So, yeah, the quicker we can move on to round 2, the better for me. 5th was my best finish in the primetime slate. Just the 25th and 32nd across the Challenger and Champion competitions. Not good enough for the standards that I set myself. But, look, the beauty of GameDay Squad is that was round 1. We can just hit that clear all team button and rebuild that team for round 2. So I cannot wait to get into chatting about the players that we're going to get us back up that leaderboard. We've also don't just have Mel in the chat. We've also got Michael Cossie. Thanks for joining us once again, mate. Maxie's here. G'day, Maxie. We've got Sif Kanga, I believe, but he hasn't set up. He's moving his house, so he hasn't set up the correct PC yet. So he's on the personal account. So thanks once again for joining us. Sif Kanga, it's a little bit different not seeing the capital letters. Please get that PC fixed up nice and soon so you get back to the caps lock. And yeah, we'll have to see what Cal says about that. I don't know if we can go around throwing around titles, given that the main two the guys that will oversee that in the room. But we'll give it for the next hour, Mel, and then we'll see what the boys have to say about that. Dyl, what's in case there are any new listeners or viewers popping in tonight, what's Wednesday night's going to look like from now on?
Yeah, mate. So we're coming to you every Wednesday night throughout the season. 6 p.m. will be the NRL show each and every Wednesday. Plus, we've got the Sunday afternoons with just the special Sunday Showdown competition that we will be live 30 minutes or so before the kickoff of the first game there. So you want to make sure that you subscribe to the Fantasy Bros YouTube channel so you can keep up to date with all of those. We always have the lives pending a couple of days before, so you can make sure you hit that notify button and be notified when we do go live. Look, our weekly Wednesday shows, we're going to break down the best players across each position, as well as those bench spots that we can have in GameDay Squad. We're going to discuss those important start and sits that we have each week. We're going to have a bit of a discussion about some players that we really like and some players that we don't like as much. Then we're going to show our consensus bronze starter squad, which is the 13 players that would be playing in those starting positions. We're not necessarily going to talk about the bench spots as well. We're going to leave that up to the viewers to then make some of their own decisions. But if you are brand new and you want to get at least 13 players on the field, you might be able to copy paste those. Look, we're also going to plug the Stats Lab primetime comp and, of course, our Sunday showdown, where we'll talk about a few players that we'll be keen on there, as well as those under 24s. And as always, everyone's favorite segment at the end of the night, it is BroDown ShowDown, where we go head-to-head, but also the viewers, listeners win some awesome cards. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to all of our socials. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and obviously YouTube as well. Just search at FantasyBros AU. We've got plenty of content coming your way, as well as plenty of giveaways throughout the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're a brand new player to GameDay Squad, or you've just stumbled across this video, or maybe you've got some friends that you chat about the footy work on a Monday morning, or maybe someone in your fantasy league, a different platform is keen to keep trying out that challenge because they got one view in round one, get them set up the GameDay Squad. It's really to do so. You just need to head to the website or download the app. And when you enter the promo code FBRL26, once you register and confirm your details, you'll get 3 9-player common packs. So you'll get 27 cards there that will get your squads rolling. You'll be able to fill out some of your classic or your contender sides. You'll also get a whole heap of bronze cards that will get your starter squads rolling. So you get those 3 competitions sorted, and then you can look at eventually throwing your hat amongst the bigger competitions like the Stats Lab Primetime, the FantasyBros Sunday Showdown, and the under 24 competition. And all those competitions are just 1 year old. So why wait when there's about $5,000 up for grabs in cash alone, plus all of the prizes you can get just for placing in the top 50 across a lot of competitions. Much on offer. Get your friends involved. Don't forget, sign-up code is FBRL26. Let us know on Instagram if you're having any issues or you need any more information about signing up or getting some mates signed up. Right, Dyl, enough of the housekeeping. Let's jump into talking about some of the forwards that we're looking to play in our GameDay Squad teams this round. Now, obviously, everyone, the forward position is made up of the hooker, the middle forwards, and the edge forwards. We'll start with the hooker, Dyl. We saw a massive game from Damien Cook in Vegas. Brayley and Harry Grant had pretty solid games, particularly Harry Grant crossing 2 before that. A little bit of a hamstring maybe tweak toward the end, maybe had some coaches a little bit scared there toward the end. Jakey Simpkin, your man, was pretty solid. And Api Coruscant, a new face on the block amongst the hookers. They're 5 hookers that we think could go well again in round 2. Where are you going to go, Dyl? You going to go back to Damien Cook, given he was a standout in round 1?
Yeah, look, before I talk about hookers, you did mention signing your friends up to GameDay Squad. And look, it's not just friends that you can get involved. It's also a random cab driver that you might have on a Saturday night.
Oh, that's right.
You might sign up there as well. I know that we sat in the cab and we spent about 45 minutes talking GameDay Squad and footy, and we were so keen to get involved. So make sure you get your cabbies around it as well. Yeah, look, hookers, there's a few that I'm really keen on. And probably those first 4 probably I'd like a piece of them across a few competitions if I could. Obviously, we talk about that bench spot as well that we've got for forwards where we don't necessarily like playing an additional hooker, but maybe there might be an opportunity for that this week. The first one, obviously, is my man, Jake Simpkin. And look, my preseason suggestion around him getting 80 minutes came to fruition, which was great to see. But it wasn't just that. He ended up playing the 82 minutes of that with the extended extra time. He made 63 tackles in that 82 minutes. He did miss 5, though, which is a bit unfortunate. It meant he dropped that score down into the 40s. You lose 3 demerits for each missed tackle in GameDay Squad. So they're quite heavy in terms of losing points there. The Seagulls do face up against the Knights now. They've had a big break. They're on, they should be fresh coming out of almost 2 weeks from any footy. But in that Vegas game, Marnie played 80 minutes against the Knights and he racked up 53 GDS points as well, mostly in base. So I feel like, once again, Simpkins are a really good option where you can go to that knowing he's going to get base. I think he ended up only running like 11 meters. So don't expect too much from a running game from Simpkin. It's all about those tackles and maybe a short ball at the line. The other thing I like is, again, that bench that they're running. It really looks like he's going to get that 80 minutes again. So hopefully that's going to stick and that's going to be the case. But as you said, that other man that's looking really juicy is my Vegas pod was Damien Cook. He really delivered, didn't he? It just another hooker that's playing 80 minutes because of that injury to Jacob Little. In that 90 minutes that he played in Vegas, Damien Cook made 70 tackles. That is absolutely ridiculous. That all of those points, 1 point per tackle, 70 tackles in that time. And look, as I said, Little's injured. We expect Cookie to go the distance again. The downside is that he does come up against the Storm. The Storm were dominant against the Eels in round one. And as a result, De Silva and Smith combined in that hooker role, they averaged 18 GDS points against the Storm. So that's probably the question marks that I might have. Obviously, Cook is a much different player to De Silva and Riley Smith. But for me, it's probably Simpkin. We'll get a look at Harry Grant and maybe Brayley. But I think Cook, again, is definitely another pod that we should be looking at.
Yeah, absolutely agree with a lot you said there. I love Jakey Simpkin as a popular play for the Sunday showdown. I think he's the standout hooker there. Obviously, with the Sea Eagles taking on the Newcastle Knights there, I think he'll be pretty popular. But if you want to get a bit of a pod in one of the other competitions, if he can get through that, minimise those missed tackle numbers, then yeah, absolutely he'll be onto something. But I think, yeah, look, while Jacob Little isn't named in that Dragons team, I think you just got to keep running with Damien Cook until either the wheels fall off or Jacob Little does return. We're expecting his return, or at least via the bench this round. So we've got an extra week there with no Jacob Little, and just out of necessity, really, the Dragons will be relying on that man, Damien Cook. And while there's no Little, I think he's going to be a very popular play as well. Is he going to get that big 92 points? Look, probably not, but he's just shown absolute monster workload. He'll tackle, he'll run, and as a hooker close to the line, he's always a chance of darting over himself or putting a big boy over for a couple of cheeky attacking points as well. Sif Kanga likes the Blake Brayley shout, 45 tackles and 45 GDS points for him against the Titans last round. The Sharkies absolutely blew them out of the water. So they had a lot of possession of the footy, and we saw it was sort of the outside back show, and particularly on the right-hand side of the field. Brayley didn't need to do a lot, but still that 48 points is obviously very safe. They've got the Penrith Panthers there in Bathurst. Gee, that's going to be a great game. The Panthers have a great record there. And you'd expect the possession to be a lot more even. Blake Brayley and Cook this round, and he's probably got a little bit more creativity out of dummy half, and probably some better blokes outside him as well to dish off to. So I think are going to be very popular shouts. Harry Grant was absolutely dominant. Last at the hammy twinge might be a slight concern, and you did mention how bad the Eels the Eels hookers were, but I don't think you can really call Riley Smith or Talon De Silva's tackle attempts. They were more so jersey grabs, weren't they? So the low numbers there, I don't think are really indicative of what we can expect from all hookers against the Storm. So I'm not really concerned with the shout of Damien Cook this round. Anyone else there not on screen, mate, that you think could be a bit of a pod, or do we think a lot of coaches will go in that direction and maybe play a few of those guys against up to 6 different teams that they can roll out?
Yeah, I think that's the case. I think for me, like I said, I'm looking at sort of those 4 options in Brayley, Cook, Grant, and Simpkin, and probably diversifying a little bit. I don't necessarily know yet. Well, I don't feel like I have a read on a couple of the defensive options against hookers. As you say, one game worth of stats is not enough to go off. So we've just got to play by what we've seen so far. And I think Simpkin's tackle load as well as Cook's tackle load, and even Brayley's to that extent. I think they're the 3 main ones. The injury concerns, or the slight injury cloud over Harry Grant, has me a little bit concerned, and probably he'd be my 4th choice hooker. But yeah, for me, it's those 4 across my competitions. Epi Coruscant's an interesting one. I probably want to see how they go as a team. That the Tigers, obviously, that hopefully they're going to have an improved season, but I want to see how they go as a team now that they've got a few little changes in there, especially in the halves with Adam Dewey playing a more consistent role in the halves, which I'm sure we're going to talk about a little bit later. Before we do, though, just a quick one. Michael Cozzi, why did I not listen to the Fantasy Bros about Cook? Look, we say it every week. You've just got to trust the bros. No, look, we don't always get it right, but yeah, that was a good one to get right. Alrighty, let's jump into the middles, mate. And feels good to say it that we've got our big three back on side. We've got Payne Haas, Terrell May, and Isaiah Yeo. We can just move on. I think there are three middles. We locked them in, and away we go. No. Who else do you think would you look at? You've got the three there. Are we looking at a fourth middle, a fifth middle based on that bench, or are you just thinking about playing those three and look for upside elsewhere?
Yeah, it will be those three. Definitely not slam dunk picks in round one by any means, with some very similar scores there, as you can see on screen. Couchman, Cam Murray, 55, but Isaiah Yeo, some reduced minutes, just the 28 tackles and 48 points in his 65 minutes on the park. But look, I don't think that's going to be the norm. Obviously, very humid up here in Brizzy in that fixture. The Panthers had control of the game from the get-go. Cronulla obviously going to pose probably a bigger threat there after their big dominant win in round one. So an 80-minute Isaiah Yeo performance is probably back on the cards. I wouldn't be too concerned, anyone. So, yep, spot on. Isaiah, Payne Haas. We see the return of Terrell May. Tigers didn't play in week one. We have heard a little bit of information sort of about a back injury and infection that limited some of his preseason. We've also heard that he might be capped at around the 65-minute mark as well. There's absolutely no way I can leave my side until I see an actual massive role change or any of those injuries are sort of limiting his output. So he was a must-play absolutely every match last season. I think his prize card was taken in the top three of those, how dominant he is as a GDS fantasy footballer. He's a must-play every week. That's not changing for me until we see any big issues. So after those three, look, I wasn't too stoked with Toby Couchman's output in that game that saw some extra minutes through Golden Point over in Vegas. But look, I still see him as a pretty solid middle option. I think, but for me, it'll be between him. It was a bit of a status pack. He got the lion's share of the minutes, plenty of work rate. He could be a shout for a fourth middle spot. I think I'm definitely going to load up a third edge forward. So we'll definitely have a chat about some of the edge options. But yeah, outside of those top three, can you talk me into one else?
Yeah, look, I'll start with one that we probably should be avoiding, and that is Nat Butcher. If you go and have a look at the stats, Nat Butcher's box score looks unreal. He played the full 80 minutes. He made 57 tackles. He only missed one. Obviously, the Spencer Linu injury sort of threw a bit of a spanner into the works there. They'd named Steep on the bench, and then Steep came in because of that Spencer Linu injury. The bench rotation for that reason may have changed up a bit. But look, the key thing here is don't be fooled by the double Butcher name, because it looks like Nate's been named on the bench. Nat Butcher, has been named on the bench. So I would just keep an eye on that and see. But for me, that means that he's definitely not a play this week. And we'll just have to see how they go. They've gone with Sua Wong in there, and I think that the pairing of White and Wong in your under 24 sides, it's almost a lock now with both of them starting as well. They're going to get some big minutes and some big points. But yeah, if you're looking at Butcher based on last week's effort, I'd be looking elsewhere. The player that I am tempted by, though, is Jack Williams from the Eels. He pumped out 55 GDS points playing the full 80 for the Eels. That rotation, obviously, we talk about it each and every week already. That six-man rotation or six-man on the bench with the four men being able to be used is just going to throw this havoc and a spanner that we just are not ready for. Joash Papali ended up slotting into the fullback role when Iongi needed some time off the park. And so I think that's where that rotation may have changed. Means the Eels were down a forward, and so that's maybe why Jack Williams was afforded the 80-minute role. In saying that, though, the Eels have named a pretty small six-man bench anyway this week, with Walker, De Silva, Papali'i again, and then a couple of edge back rowers in Dory and Geimer. So there's potential for Jack Williams to get that 80 minutes, and if he can get 80 minutes again, and if he's pumping out 55 against a Storm team that put 50 plus on them, then obviously we can see it's all in base, and that's a really good solid floor that he can be working from each and every week. I'm probably going to hold though, and just wait a week and see again if he's able to replicate that 80 minutes before I make any final decisions. But I know he's a pretty popular player with a few of the people in Discord, so it's just probably keep an eye on that. And if that bench changes at all and it becomes even thinner, then I think Jack Williams is definitely a play.
Yeah, I think an excellent play during the primetime, the Stats Lab primetime competition. Yeah. Given that the Eels play tomorrow night, I think his role looks to be about 65 minutes on the right edge and then maybe 15 minutes through the middle. So I think he is looking at that 80-minute role when Jermaine Hopgood is in the side, obviously suspended round one. Might actually be detrimental to Jack Williams, dare I say it, who's probably going to need a breather playing too many minutes through the middle. So his minutes might be capped. Obviously, PPM might be up a little bit with the workload through the middle. But yeah, I think weeks ahead, he could be someone that we really look at playing predominantly on the edge where he gets through plenty of base, but then maybe 15 minutes through the middle as well, which will be absolutely fantasy gold. So I think you're onto something there. Big watch on that man, Jackie Williams, but I think he'll definitely get a start in that primetime competition. Just quickly, any love for Cam Murray? We saw his return to the NRL. He was pretty solid with a 55-point score. The Bunnies had it pretty easy over the Dolphins. There was plenty of points scored in that monsoon. In a tighter fixture, we'd probably expect some more tackles and run meters from Cam Murray. Gee, he was pretty dominant in his first game back. Is there more upside in him, or is he going to be another one that we just look at to see how that all unfolds?
Yeah, I'm really keen on him again. As you say, he got 55 GDS points. He played through 67 minutes, was just probably more than what I was expecting as well, which is really good signs. They were pretty happy. Like you said, they sort of had that game wrapped up quite early, I feel, and there was sort of just a bit of back and forth to finish there. But I feel like the Bunnies did it quite well. The thing I did like about Cam Murray, he's had a pretty even spread of stats across all of the ways that we expect a lock forward to rack up the points. 28 tackles, 169 running meters, a couple of tackle breaks and a couple of offloads, giving us about a 0.8 point per minute return, which is quite good really from someone like Cam Murray at the moment based on that rehab and return to injury. We probably won't see his 80 minutes yet, maybe not at all, depending on what they want to do with that bench. They've got some really good talent on that bench and a really good talent around Cam Murray as well. So I don't expect him to probably get 80 minutes at all, but if he can continue sort of getting to that 1 point per minute, I think again, he's another lock into your team that based on his consistency and his floor, I think you wouldn't be too concerned about his output. So yeah, Cam Murray, I think he's going to find a way into one or two of my sides again as probably that fourth middle. But as you said, people like and Fanua Blake and Corey Horsburgh are very similar in that vein as well. So it'll just be a decision about that final matchup and what that looks like. And then also the bench and what that bench looks like when they name that 90 minutes before the game.
Tracy joins us once again, and she's pretty keen on the Cam Murray shout. She said that Cam Murray looked very good and probably, dare I say it, could probably improve a little bit as well once that match fitness returns as well. So an 80-minute Cam Murray, gee, that would be sensational. Right, Adil, let's move into the edge forward positions. There's a big name there missing. That's Jacob Preston, obviously, with the Bulldogs on the bye. Gee, he was outstanding. His combination with Lockie Galvin on that. Jacob Preston, he was pretty much a lock in that position. Therefore, we've got to look elsewhere. Dill Lucas has been a pretty popular play alongside Jacob Preston. So I feel like he'll be a pretty popular edge play. And then coaches will have to make a decision. Are they going to run two more edge forward? They're going to run one alongside another middle. I think this forward upside plays, and no more than a number of those names on screen. We've got Keon Koloamatangi, who ran for over 250 metres in that monsoon. Haumole Olakau'atu forming a nice little combination there with Fogarty already on his way to a try and 57 GDS points. Ho Young was his solid self with 55. Not too much difference there, despite the Ethans swapping sides, Strange going to the right and Sanders on the left. But let's start with your boy, David Fafita, 37 points, but Rabbitohs looked pretty impressive. Yes, it was against the Dolphins, who we know can leak some points, but that left side of the field looks pretty dominant. You're going back to David. They've got the Roosters. On paper, it looks like a tough match, but look, the Warriors showed how to attack against the Roosters and how to defend them out of the game as well. Can the Roosters go 0 from 2 here?
Yeah, I think they will. I think that, the big thing is the Roosters, I think, might struggle a bit. And I think Fafita's going to have a big game. Look, let's be real, though. That 37, it was completely tarnished by the ridiculous sin binning of David Fafita. I could spend an hour podcast talking about how rubbish that was and how poorly that referee dealt with the two tackles or the two ruck infringements, whatever you want to call them, the push and shove that it was. I think really the referee should have sin-binned himself for the way that he dealt with that because it just blew up because of the way that he dealt with it. Anyway, look, 37 points. It's not amazing looking at it, but Fafita did play 71 minutes. He ran for 170 meters. He made a line break plus 3 tackle breaks. He added a try assist to that as well. And the thing I liked is, and I said on the Sunday Showdown when we were watching the game, I said to Longy that Fafita's first couple of runs, he was just looking to get that ball away, and Cody Walker was sweeping around after he'd given Fafita the ball. So there's definitely going to be some opportunities there where Fafita gives an offload, he assists a line break and maybe even a try more often than not. So I really liked what he was looking to do. The other thing I really liked is Fafita looked strong both with the ball and then in defense as well. He got away with a couple of shoulder charges, I think, but I don't mind that because he just looked like he was keen to get involved and he wanted to find the footy and have a big impact. And I think there was a prediction potentially that Latrell Mitchell would take up a lot of that ball, but I think they sort of shared it quite evenly and they sort of played their part quite well between the two. Obviously, up against the Roosters now, Friday night in Sydney. We're going to be on the edge of our seat for AJ, whether he can break the record. He needs 2 more tries, and Latrell Mitchell's already come out and said that he's not going to pass him the ball at all, so AJ's not going to get a chance. But I think that left side is just going to continue to hum with Fafita, with Latrell, and with AJ out the back as well. So, I think that left side target's going to be a big one. And as you said, the Warriors showed that the Roosters are pretty soft on the right. Capewell on the left edge for the Warriors, he scored 43 GDS points, which included that try that was just through nothing. It was like a knife through butter. I don't even know if he got touched when he made that run. So I think that really is indicative of where the Roosters are at. And I think they really need to pull their heads in and stop whinging and start playing some footy. But for me, Fafita's a big in for me this week, alongside that man, Dill Lucas. Then it just comes into who my third one's going to be. And there's a couple of really nice options on screen. Kalonga is a really good option. Olakuatu is great. Do you think that Hudson Young is going to improve? We obviously saw Noah Martin have a massive game next to our man Ethan Strange, which we sort of talked about all off season that Matty Nicholson's going to slot into that right side. Ethan Strange going to get across there, and it's going to be gold. Nicholson hasn't started yet, but Noah Martin in his place, and we were awarded with some massive points there. Do you think Hutto Young's still going to score well?
Yeah, I think he'll score well regardless, just because there was some promising signs that we saw despite Ethan Strange moving over to the right-hand side of the field. Ethan Sanders looks really composed and not afraid to get the ball in his hands. I think he had more receipts than Ethan Strange as well, showing that the ball's going over the left side just as much or even more. So, look, no concerns around the workload for Hutto Young. We know that he's got super attacking upside as well. But, anyone that goes to the stats center and filters by average will say, what are you guys talking about? He's not even the top averaging Canberra Raiders edge back role, because that man, Noah Martin, was insane. Not just the 48 tackles, but 2 beautiful tries, some excellent lines being run on that right-hand side of the field. And the Matty Nicholson shoulder concern lingers. I think he's getting some scans, but his time on the sidelines could be extended. So whether Noah Martin had won that spot or not, he's definitely got an extended period of time there on the right-hand side. You would expect. He certainly did his chances no harm last weekend. Obviously, the Matty Timoko on the bench is a bit of an interesting one. Does he move to centre, Sasungi? Then what's his role? Look, Noah Martin, sensational. I'd still be looking to play Hutto Young. Sif Kanga is saying that he's going Lucas and Hutto Young as well. We just saw the attacking upside from Young. He's such a competitor. He loves getting his hands on the footy with a young half inside him. He'll be calling for the ball nice and early, and he'll be making plenty of tackles to cover for Sanders as well. So anyone playing Hutto Young, I am not going to push back on that whatsoever, nor will I be pushing back on a play of Haumole Olakau'atu. Bit of a down year last year, averaging below 50. The new combination there of Jamal Fogarty on the right-hand side, but sort of predicting that Manly pack looked pretty poor. How good are they going to be? But look, they pushed the Raiders right to the very end there. Tommy Turbo at the back looked great. And while he's in form, while he's fit, Manly could do anything. Now, the big concern was Olakau'atu and Jamal Fogarty's combination, but it looked damaging. He looked threatening all night long. He scored that try, broke 7 tackles. And I think the good thing is that Fogarty doesn't have the same sort of running game as Cherry Evans. When Cherry Evans played inside Haumole, Cherry Evans would sort of show the ball quite a lot and run himself. He'd also force the ball into the big man's hands, maybe a little bit too often at times close to the line, and he'd sort of just be held up by 2 or 3 blokes or driven backwards. But I think Fogarty will be a little bit more careful and creative in the way he goes about getting Haumole into the game. And we saw that with a pretty handy 57-point game. With the sun out, hopefully on the weekend, 4 Pines, I can see another try for big Haumole. I think coaches have a lot of options in the edge forward position. And if coaches are rolling out 4, then I wouldn't be surprised. Mate, anyone else on that list that we haven't covered on screen outside of Lucas, Keon, Haumole, Fafita, and either of the Canberra Raiders edges, if you're fortunate enough to have a couple of Noah Martin cards?
Yeah, I'd probably just touch on Angus Crichton really quickly. We will move into the halves very quickly, but he's someone that I'll be having a look at for a potential bounce back. Obviously, the Roosters got done by the Warriors. The Roosters playing up against the Rabbitohs, and I've just talked about Fafita on the left side and Crichton potentially on the right side, maybe damaging. Obviously, we saw Fini Fuiaki just slice through about a 15, 20-metre crash ball against the Rabbitohs in that Sunday showdown. And as a result, he crossed the line and he's ended up scoring 54 GDS points. So if the Bunnies don't tighten up that right side defence, I think that left side defence, I think Angus Crichton might have a good opportunity on the right. The issue with Angus Crichton, though, he needs to stop those demerits. He gave away 3 penalties, a missed tackle, and an error. That's negative 18 GDS points to his score. So that's why his score was a lot lower than probably what we expected. But if the Roosters are bounce back, then I think it's going to be on the back of James Tedesco as always. But then also I think Angus Crichton might have a bit to say as well. So there's a potential pod there for your edge. But I think it's pretty locked in for me as well. I'm looking at Lucas, I'm looking at Fafita and Young, and then the Olakau'atu shout across a couple of other teams, and even the Kalonga-Matangi in one as well.
Beautiful into the halves there. Nathan Cleary, 60 points against the Brizzy Broncos. Geez, the Penrith Panthers were outstanding, weren't they? I think anyone that knows rugby league or fantasy sports will know just how dominant Nathan Cleary can be and how consistent he is. So if you own a Nathan Cleary card, make sure you've got him in your side. If you want to anti-pod and go against the Nathan Cleary shout, then good on you. But good luck to you. I don't know how successful you will be. So, Dyl, we don't need to spend too long talking about him, which means we've got 2 other halves positions to fill for round 2. Now, you'd look at that Nicho Hynes average of 102, obviously beating up against the hapless Gold Coast Titans last round. That fixture changes dramatically. A full 180-degree turn from the Titans to the Penrith Panthers in Bathurst, where the Panthers have a very good record. For me, that's enough to even put a line through Nicho Hynes. I don't think I can get there myself. Let's just have a quick chat about him. Are you going to play him, or have you got any advice for GameDay Squad coaches that are currently thinking about putting him in their squads?
I think I can have the most honest opinion because I've got the most love for Nicho Hynes, and it was great to see him thriving against the hapless Titans. But yeah, I'm actually going to sit him this week as well. As you say, the Sharks up against the Panthers in Bathurst. 2025, the Panthers were above the line in terms of giving away GDS points to right halves. They were allowing 47, which is just above what the average was. However, it was really dismal viewing for Broncos fans. Hey, the last week in particular, for Adam Reynolds, he scored a total of 4.17 GDS points against the Panthers. And I really do not want that in my side. I think Hines will struggle a little bit more. Obviously, the whole of the Sharks team probably will come up with a bit more resistance against the Panthers, and we expect the Panthers to have a pretty good game as well. So, yeah, for me, I'm going to sit Hines this week. It means that the half spots are pretty open, and there's a couple of really good options there. I know Izzy Katoa's got a pretty good matchup. I'm a little bit burnt by Sammy Walker and what he couldn't produce against the Warriors, which is a bit concerning. And then Jamal Fogarty as well might be someone that we go to. But I'm having a look at Jerome Hughes this week up against the Dragons, and obviously we saw some big improvements from the Dragons, particularly defensively. I still think Melbourne Storm are just that much better. It just is the classic next man up mentality for the Melbourne Storm. They obviously lost a few players, but it just looked like they were the old Storm selves in that first round against the Eels. Hughes, obviously, he's going to continue to dominate that right side of the field. And his connection with Joe Chan actually looks pretty clean. It looks pretty good. They had a bit of something going on there down that right side. So I want to see a little bit more of that. Obviously, the big thing is when you compare Munster and Hughes, their box scores weren't too dissimilar. Munster had a few more tackles, making 16 extra tackles, and then had 3 extra offloads. But his score was almost 30 points more. So I'm not quite sure exactly how that adds up, but those runs that Cameron Munster has, because he's so elusive, he can just rack up those points so easily. A lot of coaches are going to be tempted to go back to Munster. I think the balance sort of shifts back this week, and I think maybe Hughes is going to have that big game, and I don't know if we're going to get a Munster Hughes big game each and every week. It's going to be sort of chopping and changing, I think. And for me, the Dragons were overly susceptible last season to right halves, so I can really see Bellamy and Hughes sort of looking to exploit that as well. And as a result, I think Hughes might get a little bit more workload down his side. So, yeah, keen to go with Hughes. They're my third one. It's pretty open at the moment. Did you have any ideas about where I might go, where you're going to go with your third half?
Yeah, I think you touched on Izzy Katoa. It's just the matchup really against the Gold Coast Titans there on Sunday afternoon, and I think the theme for the backs, we're about to preview the rest of the backs positions, and I think there's going to be a couple of Dolphins players that are pretty heavily spoken about quite heavily across those positions, and it's just like 50 points against the Sharks. Things don't look like they're going. Forward pack is pretty inexperienced. It's pretty young. They're just not offering a lot. Jaden Campbell went down, which would have been a bit of a kick in the teeth for them as well. Look at Tino Fa'asuamaleaui. Tino Fa'asuamaleaui, we expected him to sort of stand up and put his team on his back, but even he struggled to make an impact. Awful start to the season for the Gold Coast Titans. So with that in mind, Izzy Katoa looked okay for his 30 against the Bunnies in a losing effort. Weather conditions were obviously quite poor. His base stats were down a little bit. He didn't quite get as many run meters as he normally gets, and it was 7 missed tackles as well. And maybe that was because of some of the big forwards there that he found difficult to put down. So I think those base or those floor numbers for Isaiah Katoa are going to be a lot higher. Still got the 2 try assists, but I think he's going to have his hands on the footy a lot more. He's going to run a lot more. He's going to be a lot more creative, and he might get 3 or 4 try assists if he marks again around some of those halves. So just look at the matchup here. Isaiah Katoa got it done last season and was one of the top 5 averaging halves. A down game 35 just means some coaches might look elsewhere, and some of us can cash in on the Isaiah Katoa shout. Have I talked you into it yet?
Yes, you have. I just was putting him into my side as you were speaking. I think, the stats obviously pointing towards Izzy Katoa having a big game. We come off the back of the Sharks Titans, and like you say, I think the Titans are just going to be one of those teams that we target each and every week, and more than likely multiple players from the team that are playing up against them. Just quickly though, Siv Kanga said Chin and Hines now, not Dill's man. Look, he's still my man. He will always be my man. I'm just fading him this week. And I think that's the big thing to note, is that it's not always about heart. You've got to use your head sometimes and know when to fade certain players. And definitely that's this week. I'm pretty happy with my selections then of Nathan Cleary, the Hughes shout, and then Izzy Katoa as well. I'm pretty happy with those. Should we jump into the backs, starting off with our centres?
Yeah, let's do it. And Herbie Farmworth, I think, alongside Nathan Cleary, if you own a Herbie Farmworth card, he looks head and shoulders above the centres once again this season. Obviously not if we just look at the raw scores from week one, with Tolakula scoring a massive 79. Gee, he looked pretty impressive. He had spiders on him all night there against the Raiders. But Herbie Farmworth, 53, without really doing too much. Yeah, did score the try. But didn't do too much. A lot of it was just in base. And if you're getting a centre scoring you 40 points just in base before too much attack, and his conditions are a lot better. Yeah, look, he's another man that we don't need to spend too long on. Plus the matchup, even if they were playing the Penrith Panthers, I think we'd be talking about playing him in our sides anyway. He now gets the Gold Coast Titans. That is a slam dunk if I've ever seen one. So because we've got Herbie Farmworth in one spot, I think we're just going to find one more centre to plug in there. Kale Iro, very popular play last week against the Gold Coast Titans, played actually in the same position that Herbie Farmworth lines up. So it might be a slight concern there with one game sample size of data to look at. I think Herbie Farmworth is going to be able to manage just fine regardless. But Adam Doueihi makes his first start for the season after the bye in round one. He's obviously playing in the halves, named but tagged as a centre in GameDay Squad. Could be someone flying under the radar, given he's got no points against his name and not on the stats column yet. So if you're going to get a pod in Adam Doueihi, it might just be this round before a few coaches cotton on. Tolakula looked dangerous against the Knights, probably open footy again, could go back-to-back big scores. Or Nick Meaney, who really cashed in with plenty of points off the boot. The Storm have the Dragons. 4 pretty tempting options there. Is it just a matter of playing one across 4 different sides and hoping one of them go off or all of them can? Where are you leaning, mate, if you had to pick one or you had to order a few of them, 1, 2, 3, 4?
Yeah, that it's always the tough thing when you've got so many different teams, so many different squads and topics you can play. Do you go and diversify and pick one each and just fist pump one of them, or do you look to load up on the one player across your teams and hope they do well? Look, for me, the tough matchup for Iro, there's a tough matchup there for Holmes up against the Storm as well. I'm actually looking at Nick Meaney. As you said, listed as a centre. He's playing on left wing for the Storm and matching up against the Dragons this week. In Vegas, the Dogs and Dragons had this absolute classic, and both the right and left wingers for the Dogs, I think, feasted. Montoya himself, he scored 48 GS points, and that really was with limited attack. He didn't have many attacking options. It was pretty much all in base. Meaney himself, in week one, he scored 51 points. And again, he really didn't have too much attacking stats, unless you count the goal kicking as an attacking stat. The Storm put on 50 and Meaney was hardly used in attack. So if they can get Meaney into that attack a little bit more, maybe he crosses the line against the Dragons here. There's plenty of opportunity. We've already seen it in week one in Vegas. I think Nick Meaney might be the option, especially with that upside of goal kicking. One of the players we used to go to a lot in the past was someone like Ruben Garrick, because of that goal kicking and the attacking upside of that whole team in the Seagulls, knowing that they're going to score tries, knowing that Garrick's going to kick goals. So I think Meaney's in a similar vein to that, where we know Storm are going to score. We know Meaney's going to be evolved, whether it's carting the ball back after a long bomb or whether it's on the end of a really nice set play where Suafailonga was looking pretty dangerous in that second half, and it just needs a little bit of ball out to the Meaney side, and we could see plenty of points there. So I think, Meaney's going to be probably my second option outside of Herbie Farmworth. There, I'm not really sure where I would go from there because Iro's got such that tough matchup. Kula looked really good, but I think Adam Doueihi, there's going to be some question marks there. I'm pretty keen to see how he goes himself. Obviously, he's got that centre tag playing in the halves. The concern or the question marks over Adam Doueihi for me is that the Cowboys were able to keep Dyl Brown pretty quiet in Vegas. They restricted him only to 28 GDS points in that game. Obviously, that combination between Dyl Brown and Sharp only really lasted 26 minutes or 27 minutes when Sharp had to go off, and then Dyl Brown and Sandon Smith had to sort of work together. So I'm just not sure whether that was the catalyst for Dyl Brown not scoring as many points or whether the Cowboys defensively were able to hold him quite well. So that just puts some question marks over Adam Doueihi potentially. As I said earlier as well, I probably want to see a little bit from that combination of Dewey and Luai and a few other players around them as well, just to see how they go. But I think definitely there's some upside to Adam Dewey. The Cowboys have been pretty horrible in the past to pretty much all positions, really, but particularly in the halves. They've allowed quite a few points last season. So that's definitely an option as well.
Yeah, Sif Kanger is asking any love for Adam Dewey. I do have some love for him over Nick Meaney, and I think he'll be in a number of my sides this week. And I think it is because exactly what you said, Dill. I think you want to have a look and see what sort of role his role looks like, and what sort of happens with the Tigers team and how they're looking to start season 2026. But this might be the one week where you get him as a bit of a pod and before other people realise a halfback tagged as a centre who's getting a lot of kick meters, getting his hands on the footy a lot more frequently and kicking goals for a team that is on the rise and could score plenty of points. So, yeah, Sif Kanger, I am on Adam Dewey. I like it. We saw him play in the halves in a couple of games last season, and he's pretty talented footballer, and getting his hands on the ball a lot more frequently than he does at centre just means plenty of upside there. Not too concerned about the Dill Brown stats from last week. Kalen Ponga was doing absolutely everything on both sides of the field. Adam Dewey's going to need to do a little bit more in terms of attack and with the boot. So you don't mind that at all, but some definitely some good options there. Moving on to the wingers, mate. We had a couple of down games from some popular picks. No big name, obviously, than Brian To'o against the Bronx, despite a 26-point victory. Gisua Fa'alongo was outstanding, particularly in that second half, like you said there, against the Eels. My question to you, given that Sua is playing at fullback, the Storm look incredible. They don't look disjointed after the loss of your man Ryan Pappenhausen. Is Sua becoming that must play as a winger if you've got a Sua card because of the talent that the Storm have? And then you only need to find one winger and not risk that double low score, given that Sua's going to get his hands on the footy, run meters, tackle breaks, and some tries or try assists an option as well. For me, the short answer, yes, Sua will be a must for me until things change or there's a harder matchup. But Dragons look great as a matchup. To'o, Nwangani, Jermaine Zarko, Sione Katoa had a massive 67 last week. Are you keen on Sua? And if yes, where are you looking for winger number 2?
Yeah. Look, I don't think he's going to be an automatic play each and every week, similar to what Fletcher Sharp was, I guess, last year in that out of position winger. We'd lock him in each week, no matter what the matchup looked like. I don't know if Sua Fa'alongo is going to be that same. If we have a look at his score there, it was inflated with 2 tries. He also missed more tackles than he broke. Obviously, as a fullback, you don't get many tackles anyway, and he sort of fell off a couple of. I wouldn't say super important tackles, but there was a couple where he did fall off. And that's also one of those stats that I look at is the tackles broken to the missed tackles ratio. And when there's more missed tackles, I get a little bit concerned. As you say, though, the matchup against the Dragons, it looks good on paper. They're pretty susceptible to fullbacks. Last season, the Dragons allowed an average of 50 GDS points to fullbacks. And during Vegas, they even allowed Connor Tracy 40 points. So I think there's opportunity there because Sua Fa'alongo is at least twice the man that Connor Tracy is. So I think Sua should have a big game. So I think I'm happy to lock him in this week. And as you said, that man Asako is probably where I'm going to go with my second option. It potentially could be a little bit of a pod, probably not a name that you go to straight away. I know someone like Brian To'o or Nwanga Nituazi is going to be a big name that you sort of look at. But I think Asako's got plenty of opportunity that we can exploit. Sione Katoa came off a 67.3 GDS points against the Titans, which included a try and 9 tackle breaks. So Asako now comes into this with that potential upside as well as goal kicking to add to his output. And we know that the Titans love to pick up points to both right and left wingers, but they actually allowed more to the right side in 47 GDS points last season on average to right wingers. So look, that trend seems to continue. We're going to talk about it each and every week that the Titans are just a team that we're going to exploit, that we're going to look for matchups against. And Asako is going to be one that I definitely will play. So I'm going to have some pretty big shares in the Dolphins. So it's going to be fins up for me this week, I think.
Yep, spot on. I'm there as well. Nico Hines kicked 7 from 9 for 21 points off the kicking tee against the Gold Coast Titans last week. Jermaine Asako, definitely a sharpshooter. and more than capable to finish a few in that corner that saw a few points being scored last week as well. I think a great shout. I'm not sure Jermaine Osaka will make our board too often throughout the season. So when he's got this matchup, which is so juicy, I think we've got to take full advantage of it. Even if he doesn't score a try, I think there's floor in there in terms of some run meters, tackle breaks, and the goal kicking to make it a safe enough play, despite not having a sort of big type name no one need to say. So Swat and Izako combination for me. I think the fullback position, mate, is going to be a tough one. We got 5 names on the board, but look, honestly, we for 8, 9, 10 different players here. I think a lot of coaches will want to roll out 3 fullbacks. I got my fullback combination horribly wrong last week, so I'm going to give you the floor. I think Teddy is going to be a fairly popular play given he's so reliable. We've seen some massive 100-plus scores from all of these guys, but then we see some 20s and some 30s, a la Reece Walsh on the weekend. Teddy has a bad game, and it's still a low 40 or a 45, and you sort of go, okay, yeah, fair enough, but it doesn't really ruin your week. Kalen Ponga was outstanding in Vegas. Hammer's got that match. Mitchell looked fantastic on the left there. Where are we heading? Give me some advice.
Yeah, look, we talk about it quite a bit, but early season fantasy data is always so difficult to analyze. We've got a 1-game sample size, and there's so much uncertainty around what the cause of the output was. Was it the player in question? Was it the flimsy defense? Or was there something else? Was there a different factor, rain, etc.? But for someone like Teddy, I think you just throw all of that out the window and you just load up on Teddy, knowing that he's going to have a really good floor, and then there's going to be some attacking upside as well. He's an absolute machine, and I don't feel like he ages at all. I feel like for the last few years we've been saying this must be the time that he starts to go on that downtrend. This must be, but he continues to just turn up, and I think there's no doubt that pretty much most coaches will play him. The Rabbitohs stood true to what we knew and what we've been talking about all off season, is that they allow points to fullbacks. They allowed 60 GDS points to the Hammer, and that was exactly what they averaged last season to fullbacks. So I don't see any reason why we need to go away from Teddy. The thing I always love about Teddy is he might run sideways for 60-odd meters and break 4 tackles and make no meters at all, but it's all of those tackle breaks where you get 3 points per tackle break that you're really banking on. So I'm happy for him to do that, but he does pop up every, sort of in different positions every now and then as well. And like I said last week, the conversation around the first, second, third receiver out of the Roosters is that Teddy can pop up at any point there, and I really like that opportunity that just get ball in hand for Teddy. So yeah, he's definitely one that I'm super keen on. The other one I'm super keen on is Kalen Ponga again, and I think I can say he's back, and by that I mean that he's now a New Zealander again. Can we say that he's a Kiwi once again? He's declaring his allegiance back to New Zealand. I didn't know you could do that, or you couldn't do that. I don't know. Anyway, let's move on. Look, Kalen was on fire in Vegas. He looked unreal, especially when Fletcher Sharp was on the park, and we only saw a brief glimpse of that, but they looked so good together, and hopefully we get that combination back sooner rather than later. But the whole Knights team looked improved. Look, I talked about it off season that they were averaging 2.2 tries per game last year. Well, they blew that out of the park in about the first 15 minutes, and they were all over the place, and it was unreal to see. They have to travel to 4 Pines now, up against the Sea Eagles, who will be spewing they didn't walk away with the win there against your boys. So I think this could be a pretty fiery matchup, and the Knights have had a bit of a rest, and Ponga's, got that confidence. He's a big confidence player. I think he could be damaging either way. Go and have a look at that Raiders game. Watch KO Weeks. He was able to run for 180 metres, break 5 tackles, and put in a try assist. We know Ponga's a much better ball runner than KO Weeks. Sorry, Stewie, but it's true. And then he's got the added bonus of kicking goals as well. So I think it's going to be a big game for Kalen Ponga. So there are my 2. I've got a third one that is a massive pod. I'm not necessarily playing him. I'm going to play him on one side, but I've got a massive pod. And look, I've got a bit of confidence coming off the back of Turbo's big score against the Raiders. I nailed that pod fullback call last week, so this might be just taking an overstep. Maybe I'm a little too confident, but I actually think the Eels' controversial fullback in Isaiah Iongi could be a shout this week up against the Broncos. He could be a massive point of difference. Last week against the Storm, the Eels went down by more than 50, and Iongi was a shining light there for GDS coaches. He was able to reward any Iongi truthers that played him with 67 GDS points. The best part of that, he had very few attacking stats, which kind of makes sense based on the game script, I guess, that the Eels hardly had an opportunity to attack, so Iongi wasn't really involved there. The Eels now face the Broncos, though, on Thursday night footy tomorrow night, where both teams are looking for redemption. Obviously, Eels went down massive. The Broncos defending premiers, they need to bounce back. The Bronx gave up 72 GDS points to Edwards last week. It is just a one-game sample size, but Iongi with a 67 against a really good Storm side, he could have a big game up against the Broncos. So if you like to take some big risks, and I will tell it to you, that is a big risk, but if you want to play him and get some extra points on the board, then maybe Iongi is a shout for you this week.
Yeah, geez. He's not in Will Kennedy or Alex Johnston territory, but he's not far from it. 43 average last season through his, 14 games. If you asked me to rattle off 10 fullbacks that I'm confident in, he wouldn't be one of them. But that's the beauty of that round one data. And if you back the data and can see it happening again, then that's where you get an edge over your opponents. And it could be the difference between, a top 10 finish and a podium finish. So I like how your brain operates, mate. You look at that data and you back yourself. It doesn't always fire, but we live and we learn. So Iongi, geez, let me know how many squads you do roll him out in, so that I can cheer him on for you, because he won't be making an appearance in my side. I'm just going to back years and years and years of data with these blokes on screen, plus a few others. Look, we don't even have Tommy Trbojevic on screen. You nailed him last week. He looked great. Manly were better than expected. While he's fit and he takes the field at 4 points, he's an option just about every single time he's on that team sheet. So we got some comments of coaches going Ponga, Trell, Tedesco, is Sif Kanga, Tracy likes Teddy, Hammer, Ponga. There's a couple of big names missing there. One of them is that Tom Trbojevic, and Reece Walsh is the other one. We know how good he was at the end of last season. We know how poor he started the season. We know how poor he started this season again. How long is that going to continue? I don't know, but I played him last week because of the Penrith Panthers matchup, because of his end of season run last year. It obviously didn't pay off. I think some coaches are going to be a little bit disappointed or, vindicated for not playing him, and they're not going to look at playing him again this round. I'm going to double down, and I think Reece Walsh against the Parramatta Eels tomorrow night is for a top 3 fullback. I don't know if I can get to him in every single team. I think that'll be a little bit too disastrous, possibly. But just the 84 run meters, the 3 tackle breaks and 3 errors against Penrith last week. Let's be honest, they were just outstanding. The Bronx could get nothing going. It was humid. There were about 33 errors made from that game, so the ball was hardly in play. And we saw how bad the Eels were last week. They don't have their enforcer, Jermaine Hopgood, through the middle. Jackie Williams has had to move there, so they're a little bit fragile now down that edge with is it coming to Alongi coming into the starting side. So, look, the Bronx are going to want to bounce back. They were embarrassed, let's be honest, against the Penrith Panthers after suddenly bounce back territory. And when the Broncos are scoring points, when the Broncos are on fire, it's all Alongo, his 58 points, 2 tries. The Eels ran out of gas in the second half. I can see a repeat happening. It might not be a 50-point blowout, score 30, and Walsh is going to be amongst some GDS points to repay the coaches that are showing the faith. Can't get to him in every team, but definitely 1 or 2. Can you see yourself rolling out a Reece Walsh?
Look, I will play him in my under-24s, and I probably will play him in the Stats Lab prime time, but I'm just going to stick true to...
not game enough.
No, I'm going to stick true to what I've seen in the past and what I talked about last week in terms of sort of that first 5 games. He really doesn't score well, but I can see the justification, the reasoning there that, the Eels let up a big score against Sewer, and then, obviously Reece Walsh coming in. Mel's put in a really good point. This was the round that Reece Walsh scored his negative 9 GDS points this time last season. So that's a big risk. He'll want to rectify that, and all the coaches will want to rectify that as well. Just quietly, Iongi is also an under-24 eligible player, so he might be one that you could pair up with Reece Walsh into your under-24 side. The other guy I'm looking at that I'm really keen on, obviously Hammer has got that really good matchup. I'm probably going to get Hammer in majority of my sides, but Latrell Mitchell is someone who's got that fullback tag. He's playing in the centres. We sort of know that in the first sort of the first preview show as well as in the FantasyBros Showdown, but he really stood up. He made a little error early in that centre position, but he then really bounced back and had a massive game, scoring 89 GDS points. Is that someone that you're looking at playing this week, or are we still waiting to see how he sort of goes over about 3 or 4 games before we get an idea of where he really sits playing in the centres?
Yeah, still don't love a centre playing in my fullback position. It's just that sort of, it's just that thing that sort of plays in your head going, well, why don't I just play a fullback that's going to roam both sides of the field? But look, if you played Latrell Mitchell last week, you're obviously cheering that massive 89 points. Roosters susceptible on both sides of the field. They'll want to turn things around as well after a woeful start like the Brisbane Broncos. So I think this game will be a lot tighter. There's no reason to jump off Latrell if you're keen on him. I just think there's a little bit of upside in some of the other fullbacks with some matchups as well. But I can't push back on a Latrell. We just can't play them all, unfortunately.
No, we can't. Alrighty, let's get into our favorite part of the show, and that is the BroDown Showdown for me. Unfortunately, it's not necessarily my favorite part this week. Stu, you got one up on me. Just getting over the line with the Herbie Farmworth up against Iro and the Sua Failongo up against Brian To'o. Harry Grant did the job there to start with, though. One to you. So we're going to spin the wheel and see who gets an awesome prize. So for those that are new, we go head-to-head. We pick 3 players that we are keen on based on positions that we have spun off screen to comment who you think is going to win the BroDown Showdown. If you get it correct, you go on our wheel to win some prizes. And this week, we've got a whole bunch of people that got on board with Stu. And I think it was Tracy Wall that said Stu, hands down, on the stream last week, was going to win. So, Tracy Wall, you are on the wheel for sure. We're just going to wait for that to load, and then we're going to spin that and open a 9-player rare Origin pack for the winner. Now, this happened last week as well.
Okay, I can see the wheel now. It is up on screen.
Okay. All right. Good luck, everyone. Hopefully, we can come away with a victory for someone special. And it is Izzy, our man Izzy. Unreal.
Well,
thank you for supporting us, Izzy. Now let's jump across. Computer is going to handle this. All right, Stu, can you see that rare pack on screen?
I sure can. Click that open button.
Beauty. All righty, here we go. Now, because this is a 9-player, what we're going to do is, as the loser, I'm cards for Izzy, and hopefully they are good cards, because otherwise it's going to come at me for sure in my teams. So good luck, Izzy. I'm going to just go the straight line across, straight down the middle. We're going to kick it off with a Diamond Liero. What a start. Unreal. We've got a Platinum Rob Toya for you, and to finish off, a Platinum Croker. Did I accidentally open a unique, or was this a rare?
No, I think
those are some.
We'll have to look back at the footage, or comments might be able to tell us. But no, I think it was a rare. We'll see. We'll see the rest of the cards.
It was a rare. Yep, let's see the rest. Blake Locke, Sam Hughes, Ranis, Talau, Duffy, and well, mate, I could not have picked that better for you.
Right 3.
You've walked away with a Trent Liero. Well done. All right, Stu, you get all those golds, mate. Good on you.
Anyone in the chat wants any of them, they are more than happy to have them. Just direct message Dyl on the GameDay Squad Discord server. Rightio, on screen, you should be able to see the round 2 BroDown Showdown. Obviously, we split round 1 into Vegas and the rest of round 1. So Dyl won Vegas, I won the rest of round 1. We're sitting on 1-1, and here are our selections for round 2. The wheel was spun. We spun the middle, the centre, and the winger. The Dolphins and the Storm have some pretty favourable matchups, so they're quite heavily played. I've gone Payne Haas, Herbie Farnworth, and Jermaine Asako to get the job done, while Dill's gone for Terrell May, making his first start in 2026, and then he's loaded up on Nick Meaney and Suat for along. So it'll be Haas against May, Farnworth against Meaney, and as commenting in the chat, or if you're rewatching the stream on a Thursday or a Friday, or listening to the audio, make sure you could get your comments in so you can win some fantastic cards, just like Izzy. A diamond and then a platinum Rob Toya in a rare pack. I think Toya might be a decent shout in that under 24 competition this round. We've got a couple of predictions coming through. Who was that? Was that Sif Kanga, who went Dill before even seeing the players? Sif Kanga, they're on their screen now, mate. If you want to change your mind, feel free. We got John Boney, we've got Mel going Stu, Michael Cossey is going Stu as well. Tracy Wall is going Stu. Maxi going Dill. Sorry, Michael Cossey is going Dill as well. I know you got a bit of news there, Dill, regarding the Eels. We'll get there in a sec. Just want to show on screen our consensus starting 13 for round 2. So based on the players that Dill and I both like, we've named our starting 13. So we haven't named 2 bench forwards, 1 bench halfback, or 2 bench backs. If you want to copy and paste our starter team, you can, but you'll have to come up with some of the backs yourself. You can see we've gone a front row of Payne Haas, Damien Cook, Terrell May. We've gone Dill Lucas and Fafita as our edge forwards, and Isaiah Yeo locking the scrum. We're back in Cleary and Isaiah Katoa to get the job done in the halves. We've got Farnworth and Meaney in the centre position, Fa'alongo, Azako on the wing, and Teddy at fullback. Just quietly, that looks like a red-hot football side, doesn't it?
Yeah, we should actually track how that goes and get the points in the bronze cards for that base for that starting 13 each and every week, and see how we would go in starter. Look, in terms of some salary pods, obviously we're going to load up on Nathan Cleary, as well as probably the Payne Haas and Terrell Mays, and then looking at maybe a James Tedesco as our other salary pods. So the opportunity to get some extra salary in your contender or your classic side there as well. Alrighty, and just quickly before we head off, the 24-hour team news came through. Will Penasini has dropped out of the Eels side, and replacing him is Sam Rani. So he might be someone that comes into your under 24 sides, or even the prime time, the Stats Lab prime time. So just something to consider as well. If you had someone like Will Penasini, who's had a pretty good games, across the years at the centre spot, he might have been someone you were keen on. But obviously, get him out of your side as quick as you can. Just talk to Stu about getting a donut when you have a player that doesn't play.
Yeah, and I think a big plus there for the Broncos with that news. Sam Rani, not much NRL experience, and I think the Broncos want to exploit that. So wheels up, Reece Walsh. I love it. All right, thanks again for joining us once again, everybody. Had a fantastic evening talking all things round 2. On screen is a reminder about next Wednesday, where we'll be going live to preview round 3 at the same time there at 6 p.m. It'll be on YouTube live as I make the preview. Listen to it on YouTube the following day, or on Apple or Spotify Music. Make sure you're subscribing to us on those channels as well. That'll mean a great deal to us. But please also join us on Sunday afternoon. We had a nice chat with Longy last Sunday for the BroDown ShowDown, for the Fantasy Bro Showdown, Sunday Showdown. Let me get that name right. The Sunday Showdown. We just want a few more people in the community to come join us live as we preview that fixture, and then hang around for a bit of the first half and a bit of commentary and a bit of discussion about what's happening. So come join us for a bit of a laugh, bit of banter, and see who we're picking in that Sunday Showdown team as well. Dill, thanks as always. Good luck for round 2. Thanks for joining us once again, everybody. Dill, any final words?
No, just the AFL boys are coming up next. Game Day Tom is making his debut for the 2026 season over on that. So keep an eye out for that in about 20 minutes. Make sure you get around those AFL boys. They are having a cracker so far. So, yeah, get around them. Thank you very much for joining us, Stu. As always, thanks, mate.
Oh, yeah.
See you later.
See you guys.